If by some chance, some stroke of luck, or some act of God, you have stumbled upon this broadcast, you are listening to the Chivalry Chronicles with your host, Dr. DLH.
I'm a damn doctor.
David.
We're going to bring the tea.
refuse
To not drink during the podcast.
Yeah.
And me, Jaime.
They need to make podcast equipment a lot more expensive to get some of these clowns off the air.
Gather around as we discuss a modern, manly approach to chivalry. So I hope you're ready, because I know we are. So let's get into it.
All right. And we're back.
Jaime got a little splash on him when he opened
I
his
know. We're back. We're here, the Chivalry Chronicles, coming to you from the friendly confines of the Chivalry Studios, a.k.a. my office upstairs. Right, DLH?
Right.
And we have guests. We have Joe and Jeff with the Everyday Night podcast. They contacted us, I guess, now it's probably like 3 or 4 months ago. And they were like, hey, you know, we'd like to have you on our show. And so we did. We invaded their space and had a long conversation. And then we're returning the favor. So welcome, Joe, Jeff. You want to introduce yourselves? Just kind of a little bit, something about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Joe, and together with Jeff, we've been doing a podcast we call the Everyday Night for, I don't remember how long now. Six years. And the premise of our podcast is talking about the application of chivalric virtues to everyday modern life.
Yeah, and these chivalric virtues, I'm Jeff, and the chivalric virtues are we have compiled our own list of chivalric virtues from modern philosophy and historic chivalry to give us a kind of a broader course to follow.
Yeah, and so kind of what was that origin story? Like what compelled you guys to say, hey, let's do a podcast specifically on these topics or in this realm?
Well, the idea of a podcast was sort of pushed on us by my wife. Years ago, we had done a production, a party, really, a New Year's Eve party. We took it upon ourselves to put on a radio show because we set this New Year's party in 1934, the year after Prohibition was repealed. So we set ourselves up to do this radio show live on a stage during the New Year's party, and we called it the Jeff and Joe Radio Show.
That's pretty cool.
And it was very well received. We had a great time doing it. And after the party was over, we did it one more time, and then it kind of languished. And I guess my wife thought we needed something to do. So,
well, it's probably prompted by the fact that whenever we got together, we would banter in a way that she would always say, you need to start a podcast. You need to put this somewhere where I don't have to listen to it.
Right. We need to express that somewhere else than her presence.
Yeah, you guys need to move that to a speakeasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But Jeff and I have known each other for more than
45 years.
45 years. And we met in the Society for Creative Anachronism, which is a medieval reenactment historical educational organization that seeks to study and learn from the Middle Ages and Renaissance by recreating them. And that's where we met a long time ago and have a lot of shared interests in medieval history and medieval combat, and because we both do armored competitive medieval combat and combat sport. And we have a lot of other shared interests and movies and culture and
graphic designers.
Yeah.
We worked together in the same office for a little while.
We did. Yeah. And so this arose out of that. The podcast we do arose out of that, because we think of ourselves in the organization we're both knights, and knighthood in that organization is something that has to be earned through skill in the sport, but also exemplifying the chivalric virtues. And so we both agree that that's not something you just put on and off like a costume, that it's a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of living with the virtues. And so it seemed appropriate to talk about how we apply those virtues to our modern life.
When we were on your podcast as a guest, I think we only broached the subject briefly, but I think there was a question that I had reserved for when we were having you on our podcast. And so the question, and this could be a difficult one, I'm just kind of curious about it. But when we talked about the virtues, they are plentiful, right? And they're various depending on where they're coming from. So while you were doing this, like getting your podcast together, was there a compilation of all of the virtues that you could find? And if so, how many were there? And then what did you whittle that down to, the virtues that you specifically focus on for your podcast? And then I think if it doesn't become too much, why those, like generally?
Well, we went out initially, we both went out separately and just gathered everything we could find as a chivalric list of virtues from any source we could possibly find, just as you're suggesting, right? And we gathered them all together, and then we sat down and we put them all on a list, and we said, well, some of these overlap. Some of these are present on all these lists, so we got to put those in. Some of them use a different word for this or that, and some of them can be combined into one thing. I suspect Joe right now is pulling up our actual list.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
And so we decided we had to limit it somehow. We can't just use every virtue ever listed as a chivalric trait. So we decided to get it down to 12. And then Joe insisted on adding a +1. That is a sort of composite virtue of all the virtues.
Oh.
So it's a baker's dozen of 13, or a 12 + 1, as I usually refer to it. But they also encompass our modern view and our relatively secular view of those virtues. In every historical one, of course, your faith in the Christian God is the thing, is a major virtue. The strength of your faith.
You're talking about European knighthood and history and
in general. So we kind of set that aside because we don't want to offend a faith that is not that.
Right. Yes.
Right. So we set that aside from our list and came up with 12 others. Have you got that list yet, Joe?
No, I'm looking for. I should know it by heart, but I'm looking for it.
Yeah. Well, if we'd only had 7, and that was kind of one of the struggles we had, was that, do we mirror this against the vices, of which there are traditionally 7, right. seven deadly sins?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we decided that wasn't enough. That was not comprehensive enough to just come up with 7 virtues.
Well, in the very first episodes of our podcast, we went through the virtues. We went through how we arrived at them and debating what they were going to be and what we should be talking about and what they mean, because the meaning of the word for each virtue has changed somewhat over time as our understanding has changed. So that was the basis of our first dozen episodes, I think, was just deciding what our list was going to be. And
right. So, well, yeah, we did the list was one episode, and then we took 13 episodes to do each individual virtue.
So, and there's a lot of traditional ones: courage and veritas, honesty, courtesy, loyalty, And the plus one that Jeff refers to is Sprezzatura, which is an Italian term from the Renaissance. It was something the Medici referred to. It is difficult to translate. It is sometimes translated as the air of perfect naturalness. It refers to practicing something so well and for so long that it appears effortless and natural, but it is not. It's the result of hard work. If you've ever seen somebody do something, if you've ever done something that looks easy, but you know how much work went into it, then that is Sprezzatura. And so the reason I've always added that is that the virtues, the chivalric virtues, don't exist in isolation from each other, but exist simultaneously and reinforce each other. And so to wear them all together at the same time requires practice to do so in a way that looks effortless. It takes courage to be honest, particularly with yourself. It takes fortitude to endure in your effort to improve. And so there's a lot of overlap and integration between the virtues, and that's why Sprezzatura, I think, is important. Jeff and I have sometimes disagreed about that.
Well, not that it exists or that it's valuable, but its strict definition we differ on a little bit. Did you find the whole list? Because I did.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, honesty, courage, generosity, prowess, humility, courtesy, propriety, moderation, justice, fortitude, franchise, loyalty, and, as Joe was talking about, Sprezzatura.
Now, Jeff, can you were kind of starting to go into how you have an opposing view to Joe's on Sprezzatura. Can you mind saying why, or what's your...
It's not opposing so much as I poke him in that the definition usually refers to the appearance of these things, and that in every other definition I can find, it is the appearance of naturalness that is important, not the actual natural. It's not a natural expression; it is an artificial expression of naturalness.
It's a practiced expression of natural that becomes naturalness.
In your view, and I see that, and that's why it's valid and why we include it. But it is not the general definition.
Couldn't the over time, couldn't it transition from one to the other? Like even if it is a facade, right? You put on the face until you get those,
fake it till you make it.
Essentially. Yeah. But also, isn't there a real world practical use outside of the virtues itself, but that says that if you're going to get good at something, you have to spend 10,000 hours doing it?
10,000 hours, yeah.
Right? So, maybe that's it. You put on the facade, you are faking it till you make it. And you do that until you get enough practice where you maybe don't even realize you're no longer faking it. Now it just is, and it becomes natural. But I do agree that you would have to actually practice the thing, not just keep practicing the facade of the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I'm not opposing its importance. Just that I wanted to point out that the like I say, the traditional definition of it is about appearance, not about not actuality. But as you point out,
you and I redefine things all the time.
Absolutely, and that's why it's on the list. I didn't put my foot down on it because I absolutely see your view of it, okay. And in that view, it is valid as a virtue.
I think that it's great that you both agree that this is, that you agree enough that this is one of the virtues, right? The baker's dozen, the one that makes that baker's dozen, but that you have a slight misalignment on the specific definition. of it, because I think that and maybe y'all can tell me this, but for your podcast, if you ever address that situation, I think that creates just enough tension to make with the topic a little more interesting.
Oh,
right?
Sure. We're always a little bit off of one another, Jordan. We don't completely align on every single thing. That would be the most boring podcast ever.
Yeah.
Maybe load up with a judge to weigh in and ultimately render a verdict. Maybe we sit in. We'll have DLH here sit in and then render a verdict at the end of that session.
Yeah,
absolutely. A debate on the actual definition of Sprezzatura.
Yeah, but then
it might be interesting.
Well, it depends on. I mean, it's a very specific audience, because that means we would be in the minutia of verbiage and then the definition for each of the words utilized within that definition. So,
we could go on into that.
Yep.
Part of my definition of Sprezzatura comes from the fashion industry, in which style and fashion, there is a concept of Sprezzatura in your dress, and it's more about examples of having I'm wearing a very wild pocket square, or turning up my collar, or I'm doing, you take a traditional style of dress and you add something that kind of breaks the rule. Usually a small thing, but it's a personal thing that you are breaking the traditional rules in this way. And that is what in the fashion industry is referred to as Sprezzatura. And it has become this now, traditionally it was pointed to great fashionistas. So this is their thing. This is their Sprezzatura. This is the rule they break. And it's a signature thing.
And you're accepting their misdefinition as the correct definition.
I don't know that that's true, because that is the first time I ever heard it.
Yeah.
Well, the first time you heard it, it was wrong.
That makes sense now.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
If you are really going to be a fashionista, you need to adopt a Sprezzatura. And here's how you go about doing that. And this is where I come from. When I hear that word, that's what I think of. And that is definitely an artifice. It is a pretend thing you are doing to set yourself apart. So,
yeah, but you can see that pervasively through history, right? Like the social classes, and even people that try to live above their means simply because of what it portrayed to the rest of society, right? That you were high class, or that you could do whatever, and then those people were always looking, or not all of them, but some of them were always looking to innovate, to be the one to set themselves apart by something slightly different, and hopefully that would become the trend. I don't know. That's how I'm likening that to history when you think about all the different eras, fashionistas.
Well, I think historically someone did that not because they were trying to set a trend. It just became a trend because of who they were.
Right.
So I don't think they didn't set out to set themselves apart, except that I can afford to do this and you can't.
I mean, but what's the rule of fashion, right? If you're famous or rich, you can do what you want. They don't apply to them. It doesn't apply to them.
We talk a lot about celebrity culture on our podcast, and that's one of the things you see is, guys showing up for, the Met Gala in sweats.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm not bound by your traditional whatever. Instead of paying respect to the event, they are rejecting that in favor of their own personal image. Look at me. I'm not doing what everybody else is doing.
Right.
We were at an event, and for which, we dressed up. It was appropriate for the event, and there were a lot of people there, and the women were all very, very nicely dressed. And a lot of the men seemed to think that dressing up for the evening was wearing your cleanest baseball cap backwards. Right. It was wearing full length cargo pants instead of cargo shorts.
Yeah.
They zipped the bottom leg on.
Yeah, they put the part from the knee down. They zipped it back up.
And it's having a sense of, and we distinguish between personal style and fashion. And fashion comes and goes, but your personal sense of style is something that can be an expression of you and who you are if you choose to put your efforts into that. I mean, most days I wear the same thing because I don't want to spend my time thinking about what I'm going to wear. It's simple. But if we're doing something, we're going somewhere, I'll put some thought into what I'm going to wear. And I for a while I was teaching portfolio classes for designers and creative students in photography and design. And so they would have at these universities portfolio days where they would show their work, and agencies and potential employers and clients would come in and meet them, and they'd be talking about their stuff. I said, you have to dress professionally in a fairly conventional way, but you're in a creative profession, so you get one thing that is unique. So for me, it's been my hair. I have long hair. And I had one student, a woman who had bright fuchsia hair. I said, that's your thing. The rest of what you're wearing should be
conventional,
fairly conventional, stylish, business-like. I said, this is that's how you don't want to look like you're in a creative profession. You don't want to look like an accountant, but you still want to look trustworthy.
Yeah.
Business. So it's that balance. So stylish, but also business-like. And so I tend to think about that. And myself, it's just something I've been doing for a long time, practiced, as we were talking about. And I actually enjoy getting dressed up now and then too. It can be fun. So
Yeah.
yeah,
it was
it's a way of showing respect for the situation, the people, the environment. Yeah. So.
And you dressed that part. This was reminding me of that. You remember we did a podcast episode on
why men cling to their styles.
Yes, but we had three distinct elements. I remember utilitarian because that's mainly what I am, right?
Yeah, utilitarian.
The way that we define that as utilitarian is you just dress essentially for only what is needed, right? So you fit the part, you go out in public and you are publicly acceptable, but you don't put a whole lot of thought into what you're wearing. You're not trying to be fashion forward. You're not trying to be, keeping up with couture or whatever that stuff is. You're just, meeting the basic needs. That's kind of me. That's why, like, even for me right now, the shirt I'm wearing, I call this my uniform. I have multiple of this shirt because that's just how I like to be. And it just makes it easy for me. All I have to do is pretty much make sure that I'm put together here in the beard. But I wear this shirt, the shirt that looks like this a lot, and I prefer to keep that minimal, right? Whereas I think Dave would be more. What did we call the other one? We called it vanity.
Vanity, yeah.
Vanity was what we called the one where somebody pays maybe even more attention that needs to be there, and not that they don't have purpose in doing that, but
go above and beyond.
But they go above and beyond. And then what was the third one? I feel like it was below
humility. It was vanity, humility, utilitarianism. Humility is like you just meet the standard, right?
Well,
I kind of don't remember humility being.
I think we changed that to utilitarian because there was one where you're not even meeting basic needs.
No, I'm looking at the podcast right now, our transcript from it.
Well, we don't believe you.
I mean, this is what happens when faced with facts with these guys. It's like, I'm literally looking at it right now.
I don't believe you.
They're like, no.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that difficulty.
Thank you.
Well, let's give Jeff an opportunity to. Do you gravitate towards one of the or like how you dress? Are you somebody who's fashion forward and like to?
So I tend to be mindful of what I put on anytime I go out of the house.
Okay.
And it's usually more of a, I want to know what is appropriate for the place I'm going, and then maybe tick it up one notch.
Okay.
Like I want to look, and I also adopt a kind of a, as Joe has put it in the past, a limited palate. So that's one of my challenges. But I don't want to overdress, but I want to be appropriate with a little extra style, even if I'm just going to the grocery store.
Nice. Okay.
Like I can't go to the grocery store in Crocs and pajamas. I just can't bring myself to do it, but I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like I ought to dress like an adult man and not like an 8-year-old kid with a polo shirt and cargo shorts.
That's exactly what we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you wear is, I think of it also as a tool, as it can facilitate communication. It can give you, put you on an equal playing field. It can put you at an advantage. It's a tool, like so many things, how you speak, how you stand. So many things are part of your presence and can have an effect. And I know one thing that both Jeff and I have done is when we see somebody out in public who is very well dressed, well put together, we'll go up and compliment them.
Yeah.
And say, hey, because, and it makes their day, but it also makes mine to see somebody who's put thought into how they're presenting themselves in it, because the world has become so casual in so many ways. And
I think it's worth noting when someone makes the extra effort, because so many people don't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. I think we touched that on the podcast that, I do the same thing, by the way, when I see, especially in our office, you have a bunch of younger guys like in their 20s that are probably interviewing, and they're outside and they're like dressed to the nines. I'm always like, hey, you're looking sharp. I mean, and I think because
at minimum, you're going to listen to their first 2 minutes of the conversation.
Yeah.
You're going to give them that because of that effort.
And we had a similar discussion with my daughter and my wife, because we did the reverse, right? The sort of the women's view on fashion. And what I was telling them is that I think women are really good at complimenting each other. And I don't know, that's just how they are. But men, it's just not part of how we interact to compliment someone. I mean, people do it, right? But you have to almost force yourself to do it. Like I started doing it just because I was like, man, I need to. And it just seems like an older guy thing. You know what I'm saying? Like now that I'm freaking 50 anyway, so I'm like, might as well start doing old guy things,
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
It's like I probably wouldn't have done it when I was 30, but now I'm over 50, so I guess I'll just fall in line with the old guy stereotypes.
But I think that was part of what we did in the board approved, right? Is that we men need to do that more for each other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think of something Oscar Wilde said, that the only way to atone for being overdressed is by absolutely being overeducated.
I always heard say you got something else after this function. It's like, I was going somewhere else after this.
Yeah. I've got somewhere more important to go. I just stopped.
I jumped in on you guys. Yeah, I wore I guess it was one of our spring luncheons. I wore a tux, right? Because I was the moderator and I was the sort of the host, and I was doing the majority of the speaking. And at the end of the function, we're all saying bye, and it's all fraternity brothers. And one of the guys comes up to me. He's like, "All right, man, we'll see you later. Good event, and I hope you have fun at the prom."
Is that a rental? Or?
Yeah. I was like, I knew it was going to be at least one. At least one is going to say something. Yeah, but it was
many years ago. I was on the board of directors of the Society for Creative Anachronism, the organization, medieval reenactment organization. And I showed up to my first meeting in a coat and tie.
Mm-hmm.
And the other people there who were in T-shirts and shorts and flip-flops, and they looked at me and said, "What are you wearing?" I said, "This is a business meeting. the board of a nonprofit organization. I'm dressed for business. Well, let's get down to business. And they all, I could see this. Oh, this.
Now, you didn't mention that this is
look,
taking
oh
place.
my God, we're going to have to be adults now, because
You also didn't mention this was taking place in California, right?
it was taking place.
Right.
Yeah, and I flown in from Detroit, so like this is Detroit style, you know. We gotta, so
So I know one of the topics that you guys had was on coolness.
Yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
about what that was about and how you related it to your overall theme.
Well, one of the things we both have agreed on for years that coolness, like Sprezzatura, coolness isn't something you put on. Coolness is something you are. And being cool is just being okay with who you are, knowing who you are and being okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's knowing what cool is.
and leaning into it too. I think I used the example years ago. I was teaching a class. It was a design class. I think it was an advanced typography class. And one of the students, it's a 20-year-old young woman, I was taking questions. She said, "How come you're so much cooler than me?" And I paused for a second, because when I was 20 years old myself, no 20-year-old woman would have said that to me. And I said, "Well, thank you very much." But, and I explained, I know who I am. I'm not only comfortable with who I am, I enjoy who I am. I enjoy my own company. I keep trying to be better. I'm being more, but that's being more of me. And that's coolness. That is coolness. You're, and I related it to authenticity, mm-hmm. which was a recurring subject in what I taught in design, in everything I've taught. It's authenticity. Is it real? Can people relate to it? It's not artifice. Mm-hmm. It's actual truth coming through. And so being authentic, and the definition of that is debated, but people know real and they know fake, and they know the difference when they see them. And so being real that's what makes coolness. And that's how, because it's honesty, and it comes back to honesty as a virtue, which comes back to courage, because you have to be brave enough. You have to have courage to be honest about yourself, with yourself, to be who you are, and to keep improving. You have to be honest with yourself about your flaws and work to overcome them. That requires perseverance. And so it all relates back to the virtues.
One of my favorite references to cool is from one of my favorite authors, Terry Pratchett. If none of you have read the Discworld series, I can recommend them all to you. But there's a passage in one of them that refers to the monks of cool, who live on this monastery, and all they do is be cool. And to become a monk of cool, when you enter into the monastery, you are taken to this room, and it's a gigantic closet, and it's full of every kind of clothing you can imagine, every piece, every style. And you're told, what is the coolest outfit you can put on? And the only acceptable answer is, hey man, whatever I put on, it's cool.
Yeah.
I make this look good.
Speaking of cool, I think there's a good theme that podcasts usually start with, and we kind of do it on our end. But maybe tell our folks how you guys kick off your podcast.
Right. Yeah. That's a good bit.
Because you're talking about the fortification.
Well, let them talk about it.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we usually ask each other what the other is drinking for the podcast. What have you fortified yourself with? What adult libation have you chosen to find a different way of saying it? And we pick different things, and it depends on the mood. Sometimes I'll change up depending on the topic we're going to be discussing. Jeff tends to keep it pretty simple.
Joe's more the mixologist than I am. I've got a few personal concoctions that I will cycle through, and every once in a while it's porter, just beer. I'm just having a beer. Yeah.
Now, why specifically the word fortified?
Well, sometimes I use that generally when the conversation is going to be about a challenging subject. Sometimes
it might be uncomfortable for us or for our audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes the topics are fairly light, but more lately, and maybe it's the world and our reaction to it, the topics have become a little heavier sometimes, and fortification can help in that alcohol does have a way of loosening inhibitions and saying, things that you might be a little reluctant to say, but need to be said. So
I think that's why I focused on that word, like in seeing some of your episodes and hearing that you use that word in particular, it draws my attention in because that one word has a lot of implication about what's about to happen. Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really cool element for your podcast episodes.
Thank you.
And your most recent episode is on baloney detection.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that and what you guys discussed.
Well, the fact that it was posted most recently isn't the one we recorded most recently necessarily. I have to think about that for a second.
Right.
But that comes from something that Carl Sagan, the scientist, called it his rules for baloney detection. So so we took that and looked at it, and it's looking at what's authentic, what's real, and it's something that I've taught a lot. Really, almost every course that I've taught, I've focused. One of the things that I've embedded in every course is helping students understand what's the difference between an opinion and a conclusion, and the difference between credible and not credible sources of information and facts, and how to determine those things, because they don't know. They aren't getting that before they get to me, unfortunately. So I have to help them with that. And so how do you know how do you know when it's, to use Sagan's word, baloney? We all know the other B word that we use for it. But so he had a set of rules for how and I don't have them in front of me, and I don't remember because it was a little bit ago that we recorded it, as Jeff said. But how do you know that somebody, is it too good to be true? And it probably is too good to be true. Probably not true. How do you know that somebody's lying to you? Well, are their lips moving? Is the set of
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think when I was listening to it, I thought it was really good. I think you had mentioned on there that it's for somebody that it's okay to go, you know what, I was wrong. I've updated my information and now I've changed my view on it. As an engineer, right? We do drainage studies and all this stuff that we do for work. And then here in San Antonio, basically all our variables have been increased because there's actually more rainfall, And so it doesn't mean that what we did 10 years ago was wrong. It's just we updated the information. And so now our numbers are different. And so I think that's what that was such a great point that you made, that it's like some people just want to they want to be right. So so they'll die on that hill. And I mean, when I was listening to it, I was like, man, that is important for people to know. Like, hey, I know we talk about like COVID and all that stuff, and it's like you have to make decisions based on the information you have at the time, and that's subject to change sometimes, and that's okay to go, I was wrong, but nobody does that. Nobody wants to do that. So I enjoyed that portion of it. I was like, man, this is really good.
It's because I'm never wrong.
You're always wrong.
Well, that's why we keep trying to apply. We constantly use these virtues list as a sort of a sieve, a filtration system. Like, okay, is that honest? Does that demonstrate courage? Is that generous? We when we are faced with something like that, whether it's a concept or an assertion by some authority figure, we go, wait a minute. Let's look at that. Even when you encounter something personally, right, in your life, and somebody says, well, this is the way it is. Well, okay, why? Why is that? Does it meet the baloney test? Does it, does it set off your baloney meter or whatever?
I think that one of my earliest memories of encountering this was when I was in the 4th grade.
Wow.
And had a test. And one of the questions on the test was who invented the telescope? And my answer was a Dutch eyeglass maker invented the telescope.
Unnamed.
There's been research and they found his name, which
you didn't have in the 4th grade.
I didn't have it in 4th grade. It wasn't available then, but it's uncovered. And the teacher
that was very soon after that Dutch eye maker's death was when he was in 4th grade. You see,
yeah. You're not that far behind me. So the teacher counted it wrong because she expected Galileo, and so I brought in my encyclopedia with the listing, because I would read the encyclopedia, and
I would too.
Told this, so I considered that a credible source, and I brought in my mother with me too. And the teacher, we talked to the teacher, and the teacher said, "No, I didn't count it wrong." And I said, "Well, yes, you did. Show me the test, because we have to turn the test back in." She said, "Oh, well, I got rid of those, but I didn't count it wrong." And as we left, I turned to my mother and I said, "The teacher lied." And my mother said, "Yes. And this is the real lesson of this experience. Not all adults tell the truth all the time, even teachers." And that was my first experience with, I'll say my second experience with baloney detection, because a few years earlier, I had asked my mother about the presidential election, which was Kennedy versus Nixon. That was the first one of which I was aware.
Wow.
Yeah. And my mother said, "I don't think that Mr. Nixon is a very trustworthy person."
Yeah.
She had a very good baloney detector.
Was that 1960?
Yep.
1960, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And I don't think, if you asked me, if I was like 9, if I was really paying attention to presidential elections. I mean, you know who the president was at that age. I just don't remember paying attention to it as a kid.
I know my dad would always, and it was always over dinner, we were watching Crossfire on CNN.
Really?
And I would, it was misery for me at the time, but I kind of like that kind of stuff now.
Yeah.
I'm like the insurance commercial.
Now, if we put politics into your filtration system of the virtues, how much of that would fail?
Most large, huge swaths would just.
and Jeff and I have actually talked about our political philosophies. They're, I think, an outgrowth of the virtues. So I refer to my own political philosophy as ethical pragmatism. What works
Yeah.
What's pragmatic? What works to achieve positive outcome for the most people? That's ethical. And there are definitions of ethics and morality, and ethics about how the rules by which society works so that it can function, morality being personal decisions. The difference between, are you playing solitaire or are you playing poker? One is morality, the other is ethics. And so ethical pragmatism. And Jeff has talked a lot about the social contract. And I think those two philosophies are both significant in the application of the virtues to politics. And I don't see a lot of that. I see mostly what I see now is posturing, argument,
coup counting.
Yeah, winning rather than accomplishing something, getting credit rather than getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
It's depressing.
Yeah. Like the leveraging and the constant, like the power grabs, power struggles, everything, just to leverage every situation to maintain power, control.
Yeah, delay tactics.
Credit, all the different things.
Yeah, to then...
It's like a schoolyard playground.
So Jeff, how is your social contract any different than this ethical pragmatism? Are there any differences when you talk about this?
They're not different so much. I use the social contract more as a counter to theocracy, a theological view of the law. That I think the social contract should determine that, should determine what makes a law valid, not what the Bible or the Quran or the Torah say should be the law. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah. Well, this gets into that. The separation of church and state, right?
Yes, exactly. So therefore, people will, if I sat down and listed all of the things I believe that government should be doing, some people would label me a libertarian and other people would label me a progressive liberal. But it really comes down to, if it doesn't harm anybody, if it doesn't harm anybody else, you should be pretty much allowed to do what you want. That's the basis of libertarianism. But I also think that a strong federal government is the only thing that it can ensure that the minority isn't overridden by a popular vote.
Right.
Yeah, I do. In thinking about this, I hear where you're coming from. I think for the time being, like the ethical pragmatism, it particularly, I think, speaks to me because I believe it also covers a lot of that, right? Like we won't know if a policy is going to actually hurt people until we enact the policy and then see what happens, right? But if somebody is coming up with the policy and you are doing so in bad faith, knowing that you're going to hurt some people, that's not the way things should be. If you come up with an ethical practice, we don't need to agree on fiscal policy or whatever. If you truly believe it is going to be beneficial to society and you want to enact that, then do it. I don't have to agree with it. It might be beneficial. Some people might get hurt, but let's learn from it. And then somebody else come up with another idea. And as long as you're coming up with good faith ideas that you're really trying to use to improve society, then have at it.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I talked about. And changing, which we were talking about just a moment before, is as you get new information, you change and you modify. That's significant. Instead of saying this was my idea and we're doing it and it can't change and it's perfect the way it was. No, you get information, you change.
Yeah, you
change course.
Yep.
Yeah. And for the people, not for me, right? Everybody pay attention
that's
to
the
me.
thing. One of the things we talked about, or I've talked about in particular, and the social contract where that comes in, is that within our lifetimes, Joe and mine, we remember when government there was always some sort of low key level of graft in there somewhere. That was just an accepted thing, that politicians gave jobs to their kids or their relatives, and some contracts went one way instead of another way because there was a connection there, or whatever. That was just kind of expected, right? But there was a sort of overarching confidence in the American people in particular that there were two parties and they disagreed on how to do things, but the object was to do the most good for the most people. So when your party lost, it was like, well, that's too bad. We'll see, like, just as you're saying, we'll see how their ideas work. And if they don't, we'll fix it next time.
Right. Yeah. But give it a real shot. Get behind and
give it. Okay. Yeah. All right. It'll, this may be a little painful for somebody, but the idea is to help the most people, the most that you can.
Jeff, do you think there was
legislation?
Do you think there was something significant that changed the course of that mindset, or that?
Oh, that's its own episode.
Yeah, I know.
And we have touched at times on the history of political change and how the divide that grew, and really a long-term concerted plan to diminish education, create influence and propaganda networks, to create coalitions, not for the ostensible purposes that they were said, but for to gain a power base and to stay in power. Mm-hmm. It's you can trace the origins back. It depends how far back you want to go. It can go really to the founding of the country. And so you can go back further, or you can look at, the reaction to FDR's elections and changes and the pushback of that. You can look at the 1964 defeat of Goldwater and the movement that grew out of that. And you can look at
Ronald Reagan
and change here. You can look at, there's so much that, and
you can go all the way back to the Civil War, and Reconstruction, and all of that, and the jockeying of getting added in and who got what seats in Congress, and all it goes all the way back to then.
Eldridge Gary, what was called gerrymandering, now gerrymandering. Yeah. You can look at that. I often come back to education as an educator, that it's one of those things that how education is funded, how it's defunded, who gets access to quality learning, what people are learning, who's deciding, who's on school boards, the efforts to take over school boards. And there's a real effect there. All of that. Yeah, it's not one thing. It's the culmination of where we are is not the result of one thing. It's the culmination of many, many factors.
Mm-hmm.
But you can kind of see spikes, though, right? You see this sort of gradual upward curve, and then you hit high points where one side or another gets control of all three branches, and a big change happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then it smooths out a little bit, and then then it may switch sides, and another spike happens, and something. But it all seems to be we are becoming closer and closer to an oligarchy all the time. At every stage, it's more money means more power, and that just feeds itself.
And this is why we need fortification before we go.
Right.
We have about 10 minutes, and just so y'all know, we probably get kicked off, but come back on.
Now, so that we don't wind up staying too long on politics, because I know that this can go on and on. I want to bring it back to the virtues and the ones that are in your list. Now, in the beginning, I know you were searching for the list. You have the list that you've come up with. Is there a single one, and it's probably not likely, but is there a single one that comes up a lot for you? One that would be maybe your favorite, and why?
I don't believe there's a single credible one, first off. the there is a book called The Courtier. Who's the author of that, Joe? Italian.
Yeah.
I want to say Machiavelli, but it's not. It's
No.
But it's a 15th century Italian treatise on what a courtier, a person who is worthy of being in a court of a prince, should be. And it's done in the form of a conversation over a dinner.
Castiglione,
thank you. And it describes as so. And one person will put a question. So, what do you think a young man entering the court should have as the skill in arms? And then another guest at the party will give a little treatise, a little mini, like a couple of paragraphs on what that is. That to me is a very in-depth view of the soldier. I want to say warrior so much, but that noble class that was also in arms at the time. So, and it's a how-to. It's a self-help book for the period. So that's kind of where I go if I'm looking for a more comprehensive rundown of these things, not just a list, but here's an aspect and here's what I mean by it.
Well, I think we've talked about are there foundational virtues, and we tried to boil our list down to those that are foundational. And if you combine them, you get other ones. They're elemental, and you can create combination virtues from them. But we often come back to honesty and courage as essentials that you have to be honest with yourself about yourself to be able to improve, but that requires courage. So is courage fundamental or is honesty fundamental? Well, they're inseparable. And once you have that, it requires fortitude to persevere and keep going, to keep improving. And so there's so much of it. Those seem to be the ones where it starts, where the path of chivalry starts, but then they'll grow from there.
Like humility requires honesty. Be honest with yourself to have a certain amount of humility. You have to be honest with yourself that you're not the best, you're not the coolest, you're not the greatest. That is humility, recognizing your own limitations. Working to improve those limitations is part of humility also. But I've got work to do, and I'm trying to do the work. That takes courage, and that takes fortitude. They build on each other, and they overlap each other in a lot of ways. But Joe's right. We keep coming back to honesty, courage. I say fortitude a lot, but that's an outgrowth of courage in some ways.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I would agree. And I think it's easy to see why you would constantly go back to, honesty and courage, right? That's just like you said, that's the start of the virtuous path there. I think you do have to be able to face yourself honestly, which of course requires that courage in order to then move on in the right way.
Yeah, move forward.
Yes.
Yeah, to gain prowess in anything, skill, to be good at anything, you have to have humility to recognize where you have room for improvement, and which comes back to honesty, and so it just continues from there.
Yeah.
And so those come back to the basis of how you make yourself, right? And then many of the other virtues, as we get further down the list, becomes, okay, now that you have made yourself, how do you place yourself in your society? A lot of the other virtues are about how do you interact with humanity while you are on this path of personal growth and honesty with yourself. And honesty is with yourself, but you also have to be honest with the people around you, with your community, with your society. Being your authentic self, right, is part of being on that path, and standing up for that authentic self is part of being on that path, which is what franchise is.
Yeah, we differ a little on the meaning of franchise, I think, but the differences are not so great. I think of it as the word, the franchise, meaning the vote, comes out of the medieval concept of franchise, and that to me means if you have the ability to do something, you have the duty to do something for the good. So you have the ability to vote, therefore you have the duty to vote. That's exercising the franchise. But franchise means you see something that you can do, you're in a position to do, that's a good thing to do, therefore you do it. And that's franchise. You have that sense of it and your awareness of it, and you take action. It's taking action for the positive good because you are able to, and therefore you must. And that to me, it might be referred to as noblesse oblige by some, but it's that same thing. You have, and modernly, very modernly, you could say you are obliged to use your privilege to help those that lack it. Yeah, but again, and it takes courage to do that. To stand up. Just to finish that up, that courage is required to do all those things. You need to stand up, to stand against something, even if it's a popular something. It takes a huge amount of courage.
Yeah. Now, you know what? And I think that this brings me back to an earlier point. We were talking about coolness, right? And when we talk about the way that we were defining coolness there's a self-assurance that's in there. There's something that lets you know that you're not looking to outside sources for validation. It's internal validation, right? You know who you are, you're comfortable with who you are, happy with who you are. And that's what gives that across. So if you are on the virtuous path and you are constantly practicing this virtuous path, like going through it, then eventually you can reach a point where you know that that's your everyday endeavor and you become self-assured in that endeavor, and then you reach coolness. So get on
enlightenment.
Get on the virtuous path.
I also look at coolness has an element of humility in that the cool person, the cool guy doesn't celebrate his victories at the expense of his opponent. He doesn't teabag. He doesn't pump his fist. He doesn't, he doesn't run around the ring and jump on the side. The cool guy doesn't.
Yes.
You see it all the time, but what's cooler than walking away from the explosion without looking back? That's cool.
You're right. Yes. Yeah. And I think I don't know if y'all watch the Olympics. I saw some of that in the Olympics, which is something that I really like there is, even when the gold medal winner immediately goes and congratulates the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Once you have an understanding of the virtues and what cool is through the lens of the virtues, trash talking and that kind of stuff stops being cool immediately. Yeah. It's upsetting. It's not fun. It's disgusting.
The celebratory touchdown dance used to be an occasional thing, then became not only a touchdown dance, but after every play, you've got it's just a single play.
You tackle the guy, that's your job. Get back to work.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I like it, so keep doing it.
I mean, it's become part of the entertainment. Now it's part of the spectacle. It's not so much at the expense of the other guys. It's just everybody gets to do it now, and okay, whatever. It's just eating up clock as far as I'm concerned. But
yeah, but I think when we get into the modern game, if I were going to draw a line, right? Because maybe some people like it for the entertainment value, like Jaime seems to like here.
Absolutely,
because it unleashes some surprises.
And if you're gonna do that because that's become the modern game, then
it's not even the modern game.
Yes, because
you can go all the way back to Muhammad Ali doing it. Like when he did it, that was so cool. I was like, man, just watching video of him calling his shot. What is it? Sonny Liston? Who did he beat? That was like nobody was expecting.
That great photograph of him standing over a great photograph, but that was the victory. I mean, that was the knockout.
Right.
So it's different from celebrating after every play. This was at the end of the game.
Yeah,
a celebration.
Yeah, it was fairly rare.
No, but what I'm saying is that we were talking about like celebrating isn't cool, and that was cool.
No. I think celebrating a personal victory, like you score a touchdown, great, you can celebrate.
No,
that.
but have you heard Muhammad Ali?
When you stand in somebody's face, right, and you are celebrating over them,
but have you heard Muhammad Ali? That's all he is celebrating.
Yeah, but
and
Muhammad
in your
Ali
face.
was a fairly rare character, wouldn't we say? It's not like everybody can do that.
I think most modern players probably point back to him and go, that was a big role model.
But the point is, there's so many more now, and none of them are Muhammad Ali.
I get that, but I'm just saying that was cool.
Think of the time at which he emerged as first an Olympic champion, then as a professional champion.
Yep.
When black men were expected to be humble and quiet,
right.
And he was flamboyant and proud, and he was doing something very consciously that was breaking the mold,
and he thought it was important,
and it was important, and that's so it. He wasn't just self-aggrandizing. It looked like that. What he was doing was saying to a lot of people, don't hide your light.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he's a good example, but for a different reason. I think people are emulating the appearance of what he did without understanding the importance of what he did.
No, I think you have to, I guess, have a certain status to be able to do it whenever you want to, which gets back to once you've attained a certain status, you can do whatever
if you've earned it. Yeah. If you've actually earned it.
So, but with him, I think a lot of players like Deion Sanders, like back to football, point to him. You know, like Jim Brown wasn't that way. Jim Brown was what y'all are talking about. That dude just did his job and, averaged 4.5 yards per carry, which is crazy, or I think it was almost 5 yards.
His work did all the talk.
Yeah. So there's two radically different people, right? Yeah. But I think most people loved Muhammad Ali and the way he was, all that. I don't know. I was listening to, they were talking about, I guess something happened with Muhammad Ali here recently. Maybe they were talking about the Sonny Liston fight, but just even his rhymes, he's like, he wanted to go to heaven, so I took him down in 7. Like, it was just like everything about him was cool. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mind it so much. Yeah, I mean it gets crazy after every touchdown.
Yeah, well there's also where they take it beyond. So you celebrate, but then you're going out of your way to then demean somebody else. Those are where it starts getting fuzzy. If that person said or did something that then it makes sense why he went to
Richard Sherman or whatever. Richard Sherman and the receiver for the Niners.
Yeah, Crabtree.
Crabtree. Yeah, Coach Crabtree.
Yeah,
Texas Tech.
So then it makes sense, and I can give that person a pass.
Yeah,
but if somebody's just more of a, I'm going to rub it in your face and treat you like dirt. I don't think it's as definitive as maybe we'd want it to be.
We talked about virtues. We talked about fashion. We talked about politics. And this right now is the most heated.
The gloves are off. The gloves are off.
For me, it breaks down a little bit.
I'm about to fortify you right now.
It breaks down for me a little bit when I'm watching a football game. And I'm not, you guys are sports fans, I can tell. I am not. I can watch sport. I played sports. I understand sports. I can watch a game and understand what's going on, but I'm not, I don't understand the fan mentality. I don't get my team and all that stuff. But for me, it breaks down a little bit when the victory celebration starts and I'm going, I wonder who choreographed that for you and how long did you rehearse it? Before you won, like, that's not cool. If you had done something spontaneous because you were overcome by the emotion, that's cool. Okay, that's cool.
Now, Jeff,
You guys thought hard about what you were going to do when somebody got a touchdown, and you all got lined up and did the thing. Like, come on, man.
but now, Jeff, if that's their authentic self,
That's cool.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not. That wasn't authentic. That was rehearsed. That was planned.
It can be rehearsed, but if somebody authentically wants to, that's an important element of who they are, and they practice at it, or they do what's necessary so that
and they have so much belief that I'm going to score a touchdown. Therefore, I'm going to have
I'm gonna speak this into existence, or I'm gonna make this happen.
So they're
taking all the
rehearsed
steps.
Authenticity.
Yeah, right. That's back to Sprezzatura.
Hey, I mean,
We're back full circle.
yeah, I don't think. I mean, yeah, it gets. I don't know. When I see them doing the rowboat, I think that's funny. When they play Duck Duck Goose, that's fun. I mean, I'm like, you scored a touchdown, you're getting paid millions of dollars. It's back to, are you famous? Are you rich? Are you famous? That you can do pretty much what you want.
Yeah, because if they're not showing that, they're showing.
Yeah,
sorry,
like,
go ahead, Joe.
Like when we were playing,
Is your celebratory dance more likely to get camera time, and therefore you're more likely to get endorsements
exactly,
and earn money?
Profitable,
and that,
all that.
For me, that's where the connection is. I know I come back to Sugar Ray Robinson because I think his footwork and of the ring was brilliant. And in the modern era, Lomachenko, whose footwork is just extraordinary. His father made him study ballet to improve his footwork, and it shows. If you ever watched Lomachenko fight.
I have. Now, Joe, if you like Lomachenko's style, I would encourage you to check out, if you haven't already, Bam Rodriguez from here in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, no, I haven't. Yeah.
Amazing fighter, but he has very similar characteristics as the Lomachenko style of fight. His footwork is impeccable, and he can come at you with all these different angles fast. So,
yeah. Thank you. What was his name again?
Bam Rodriguez. He goes by Bam. Okay. People will say Bam Bam, but it's Bam.
Okay, I'll look. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My dad and my uncles used to watch boxing on TV when I was a kid, because boxing used to be televised like every week.
Yeah, ABC and
and they would get together and watch that. So, which I thought was pretty cool. So
yeah. So guys, I know we've probably been at it for at least definitely over an hour at this point, but
right.
Maybe to kind of round out, how about you guys tell us where our folks can go tap into your podcast and get connected with you guys, and give us that shameless plug.
Well, you can find us on YouTube at Everyday Night, the Everyday Night. I think both of those you'll find if you search that on YouTube. Our website, everydaynight.com. Our videos are also posted on Facebook. I've been uploading. I'm behind, but I'm uploading audio to Spotify and other podcasts. iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
Yeah. But consistently, I think YouTube, because we most often record with video, and sometimes there'll be some graphics or things when we are talking about something that we'll add in there. So that's usually where to find us.
Great, yeah.
Really appreciate you guys having us on your show.
Yeah,
too.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you bringing us on. I mean, contacting me. I think it was Joe. You contacted me or contacted our Instagram a couple of months ago, and we appreciate it. I mean, I sent it to the guys. I think I listened to the first two podcasts that you guys had. They were entertaining, and I was actually talking to David and DLH. I was like, man, it's almost like we should switch names, because we're more the Everyday Night and y'all are the Chivalry Chronicles. You know what I'm saying? I was like, we just need to flip names. But it's a good podcast. If you guys, want to discuss more, I think we kind of did a Everyday Night podcast right now. Yeah. But go find them on YouTube. There's plenty. There's so many. I don't know how many friggin' videos are on there, but there's I saw one on the Jedi Code, which I was like, okay, I need to listen to that one. But we appreciate you coming on. Do you post every week? Is it a weekly thing? Or?
Every 2 weeks we post a video, or we originally started with just audio, like you guys.
Yeah.
We moved to video, and we post that every other week. And in between, I will usually post up a philosophy meme of some kind that relates one way or another to the virtues. So it's like we post something every week, but it alternates between a podcast and a meme.
Okay. Well, there you go. You heard it here first. They started audio, and then they got cool. And it went to video. So we'll get there someday.
I said this before. It is one of the things that we hoped for and has come true with this is we found other like-minded people and people who we never would have met from a very different place through doing this. And I think that's making those kinds of connections is really worthwhile.
Absolutely.
And if you guys can help us enter the sort of incestuous world of podcasting by, it's everybody's on everybody else's show, and we're just trying to hook into that,
Yeah. Yeah. That was great. I know we hadn't gotten to it or attempted to reach out, but I think that's a good strategy to learn and grow, and also, of course, grow your audience, or at least the opportunity to potentially grow your audience.
Yeah, so y'all are our first guests, so I appreciate it. Y'all are our first podcast that we kind of did a dual podcast with, so we appreciate you coming on.
Now in future, if you ever need an overly comedic mediator group for one of your heated elements in there,
okay,
just make a jury, right?
Yeah, there you go. Maybe more peanut gallery than.
we can use our gavel here.
Well, I know our tastes differ on movies and literature. There's some areas of agreement, but there's a lot of difference.
Yeah,
maybe
that's good.
Yeah, well, we have that here too. So
yeah,
but that sounds like fun chaos.
And a whole other episode.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. All right. Well, we don't have a board approved on anything. Right?
Listen to both of our podcasts. Listen to the Everyday Night podcast as well as the Chivalry Chronicle podcast.
There you go. Board approved.
Get on that virtuous path. There you go. Board approved.
Thanks. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on your social media, and/or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram and X. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.